To prove to you that pre-attentive processing happens without you fully being aware of it, Colin Ware, this visual scientist, put together this visualization to show us just that. And if you'll notice, there are two circles in this visual, one on the left and one on the right. And if you can believe it, these are the same size, shape, and really color and shading. Everything about them is identical. But it's impossible for your brain to actually see that. If you just take a second, the left one looks bigger than the right one. And that's because of what surrounds it. So your narrative brain can't even kick in here. The pre-attentive processing is happening in real time, and you can't reconcile it. Just a perfect example of that happening. And if you know these brain tricks that I'm going to show you on how to deal with these pre-attentive processing principles, it'll help you to be more effective and let you avoid the pitfalls of using them inappropriately. The first one we'll see is a set of numbers here, and it's really black and white. Your pre-attentive processing is kind of going nowhere, and now it's switched into top-down processing. But if you add color, it'll pop right out if I asked you to look for number 5, how many times number 5 shows up. And this can be used with great effect, or it can be used all over the place if you're not thinking about it. The next one, we have a number of circles, right? All of them are pretty much the same except the one outlier, which is a different shape. And that jumps out at you, this square versus all the other circles. And that's using the principle of curvature to distinguish one object from many. And if you don't think about the types of curvature you're using in the data points that you're showing, you might fall into a similar problem of making one item pop out of many that you didn't mean to. Next, there's these clusters of dots. And when you put things together, you tend to think that they're alike. And if you don't use the principle of proximity appropriately, you might end up with clusters that seem to the viewer to be of the same kind, when in fact they have different data points in them. So another thing to be keenly aware of. Next, we have these rows of circles and squares. Our brain is automatically going to fall into understanding a narrative about what comes before and after. We expect certain shapes to pop out. And this is using similarity as a pre-attentive processing principle. And again, if you want to avoid having people think that circles are the next in line, it's best to try to use this judiciously in your data work. For this next one, we've stuck some dots into a box, and it'll make those dots pop out, and the ones behind it seem more or less important, and the ones in the box more important. And a simple process of enclosure will allow you to highlight what you'd like to highlight in a visualization. Or you could potentially lead the viewer to ignore the things that are outliers when in fact they're interesting. So you have to be careful with that. And if you'd like to learn more, you look in the further reading section. This is kind of your cheat sheet of pre-attentive attributes. And mastering these will just make you that much more effective as an analytics professional and allow you to build the perfect artifact for the perfect situation.